Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Valentine's Day, I guess. And thank you for joining me. Obviously, this presentation is about the occult pagan origins of the holiday that we have come to know as St. Valentine's Day. It will be quite a bit shorter than usual. So let's begin with the common surface history of this day that we here in America have come to understand. Every year on February 14th, this special day of romance is celebrated through the exchange of cards, chocolate, gifts, or flowers with a special Valentine. The day of romance we call Valentine's Day is named for a Christian martyr and dates back to the 5th century. Saint Valentine was a bishop in Rome who lived during the reign of Emperor Claudius II during the 3rd century AD. The Roman Empire was collapsing from corruption within and also facing military attack from several fronts. When Claudius became emperor, he was faced with recruiting many capable men as soldiers and officers to protect the empire from takeover from these foreign aggressors. He believed married men did not make good soldiers because they were too emotionally attached to their families. So to assure top quality soldiers, he issued an edict forbidding marriage. Not surprisingly, this edict met heavy resistance from the people of Rome. As a priest and bishop of the Roman Catholic Church, Valentine refused to comply with the emperor regarding this ban on marriage. The church taught that marriage was a sacred union between one man and one woman for their life and that it was to be encouraged. So in spite of the edict from the emperor, Valentine began holding marriage ceremonies in secret. But as his fame in Rome spread, Valentine was caught, imprisoned, and tortured. There he fell in love with the jailer's daughter, and while standing firm in his belief in the sacrament of marriage, he sent her a love letter signed, quote, "From your Valentine." On February 14th, 270 AD, he was executed for his stand for Christian marriage. In 496 AD, Pope Gelasius I declared February 14th as Valentine's Day to honor Bishop Valentine. It has since become a yearly celebration of love and romance around much of the world. And as mentioned, this is the official Christian establishment version of the story that the modern world has come to understand, but as usual, this version of this story is clearly a deceptive one. And this story clearly has its origins somewhere else, and we will see this momentarily. It's these sorts of stories, establishment stories, that have all been so factually presented to the masses and readily accepted by those masses that raises red flags for me. You see, dear listeners, this story of Valentine's Day is a lie. This story is not true. It has been tailor-made to fit a certain narrative, one that fit the goals of a church that had been completely infiltrated by the satanic sun worshippers by 496 AD when Pope Gelasius I declared February 14th a holiday to honor the saint. Like most all of these stories, the real factual origins lie in a time period prior to when these official stories told to us by the establishment church leaders supposedly occurred. In fact, the real truths of these stories usually rear their heads in either ancient Rome, Greece, or Babylon, and it's mostly Babylon. And so let's talk about Rome. The Romans had a festival called Lupercalia in the middle of February, officially the start of their springtime. The ancient Roman celebration of Lupercalia was held in honor of Lupercus, the deified great hunter of Rome. This figure had a head and torso of a man, but the hindquarters and horns, ladies and gentlemen, of a goat. And if you watch the videos on this channel, you know that these goat horns usually signals that this figure came to be sometime during the age of Aries, the goat or ram, most always noted by the goat horns. Just like those depictions of calf-like figures, which usually denotes that that figure came to be during the age of Taurus, the cow. Or just like the fables of the twins, like Remus and Romulus, the founders of Rome. This usually denotes that this event occurred during the age of Gemini, the twin sign. This celebration also included worship of the goddess of fertility, Venus. In Roman mythology, this goddess of fertility and sexual immortality had a son called Cupid. Cupid was said to have attended to her and was given power to cause love to begin and to cease. This celebration was held from the 14th through the 15th of February. Men would go to a grotto dedicated to Lupercus, the wolf god, located at the foot of Palatine Hill, and where Romans believed that the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus, were suckled by a she-wolf. The men would sacrifice a goat, don its skin, and run around, hitting women with small whips in an act which was believed to promote fertility. Once the priests sacrificed the animals, they then sliced the goat's head into strips, dipped them in the sacrificial blood, and took to the streets, gently slapping both women and crop fields with the goat hide strips. And folks, there's that blood again. What is it with these people and blood? And many believe that this has satanic or Luciferian origins, and it probably does, as does most of the things that are pushed by those in control. Some of the other events of this pagan holiday included the choosing of partners by chance, in which teenage girls who had just been whipped with goat hide strips then would place their names into a box. The names were then drawn out by young men. The girl whose name was drawn would then become the sexual partner with the man for the upcoming year, beginning in March during the fertility rites of the spring equinox. And there they are again, folks, that sick, sun-worshipping sex and death cult, randomly having teenagers draw their sexual partners out of a box. And then, so many thousands of years later, these sickos who understand and know and still practice the occult sit back and laugh at our elementary school children reenacting this perverted ritual. Sometimes just going back to the last civilization that dominated the planet isn't enough. Prior to this Roman story is a story coming from ancient Greece. The Greeks called Lupercus by the name of Pan or Pan. The Semites called Pan or Pan Baal. Baal, which is mentioned several times in the Bible, is merely another name for Nimrod, the mighty hunter, just as the Romans referred to Lupercus as. And so, as we suspected, this story derives from Babylon. Nimrod was the original Lupercus. And we know that Nimrod was a mighty man who built great cities, including Babel, and that's found in Genesis. Not only was Nimrod the ruler of Babel, but he was also the high priest of a satanic cult, one that still exists today and is in power today. When Nimrod finally died, the Babylonian mystery religion continued on through his wife, Queen Semiramis. Upon Nimrod's death, she deified him as the sun god. Go figure. In various cultures, he became known as Baal, the great life giver, the god of fire, Bel, and Moloch. This story more than likely began as part of the Babylonian festival of Oimbalk. Oimbalk celebrates midwinter, the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, and the return of the sun. Beginning February 2nd, candles were lit to welcome the sun, and the women began their purification process for the upcoming fertility rites of spring. In fact, as mentioned, Nimrod is a symbol for the sun, just as Osiris and Tammuz are. Just like they've done with Jesus, the sun, and with most of their fairy tales and fables like Samson and those long golden rays of light shooting from his head, or I mean, those long golden locks of hair shooting from his head, or that king named Arthur representing the sun and those 12 knights of that round table folks. They are the months of the year. They and Arthur the sun represent the zodiac. Those 12 apostles, yeah, them too. Another name for Nimrod, Tammuz, was Cupid, which means desire. Queen Semiramis lusted for her son, and soon they were married. As Nimrod Tammuz grew, the child god became the hero of many women who desired him. This Cupid provoked so many women to jealousy that the idol of Tammuz was called the idol image of jealousy. In the Babylonian tongue, the word heart was pronounced Baal. In the depictions of Tammuz, the heart-shaped fruit of Persia was often found in his hand. Thus, Tammuz became known as the god of the heart. And then, ladies and gentlemen, to begin to conclude this short presentation, there's this story. This might sound somewhat familiar. Told about 2,000 years at least before the more common story of this same nature was told that we are so familiar with. It goes, later when Queen Semiramis gave birth to an illegitimate son, meaning that they did not know who the father was, which is a nod to a virgin conception, she claimed that he was Nimrod reborn. Nimrod Tammuz to be exact. She claimed that he was the promised seed of God, the Savior. Sound familiar at all? Semiramis became the mediator between man and this God. You had to pray through her to reach him. So Nimrod was defined as the god of the sun. Queen Semiramis became the queen of heaven, the goddess of the moon and fertility. And Nimrod Tammuz became the savior of this satanic Babylonian religion. And this story is told throughout every major civilization throughout written history, just with different names, folks. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been the true story of this holiday, and as usual, all roads lead to Babylon. And so, I'd like to leave you with this one final quote from Revelations. The world has been deceived by this false religion. Nations and churches alike are falling captive to this mystery Babylon. If you enjoyed this presentation, please like, share, and subscribe, and please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching.